Okay. Now we are good. Check this out. This is my tripod, the jug, and a pinch block.
Nice. That's
This
cool.
is that's where I am holding the cell phone for the interview. Okay. So, welcome everyone to another episode of Gripsport Latino. Today we have another great guest from Australia, Mr. Isaac Pitt. How are you today?
Good, Pancho. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a good day to do another interview with a friend from Australia. I am super excited and have a lot I'd like to know about you and about the contest that you just held. So I'd like to start with the classic question that I do to our guests. Tell me, Isaac, who is Isaac Pitt?
Good question. So in Australia we say Isaac, but I also like Isak. That's sort of
Oh,
how the
Isaac.
Europeans,
Okay.
yeah, but Europeans and a lot of Asian countries say Isak as well. So I'm used to that. I've lived in Europe for a little while. Who am I? So I'm a proud Tasmanian. So I live in the very bottom of Australia, the island state. It's a lot cold here. I think I'll probably put my grip show jumper on after displaying my t-shirt. Tasmania is sort of notoriously a couple of degrees colder than the mainland, so I think I got used to those humid Sydney temperatures just from being there for like 4 days. And I've come home and now I'm like, oh man, everyone's right. Tasmania is cold, and usually I'm saying, no, 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 it's fine. So yeah, I live in Tasmania. I was born here, but then grew up mostly mainland Australia. So North Queensland, if people are familiar with Australia, it's pretty much the opposite end. Tropical warm climate, whereas Tasmania is like a little bit like maybe like Washington State in the US. Like it's got sort of mountainous, and it doesn't get as cold, but yeah, very different sort of climate to the rest of the mainland. I'd describe myself as grip sport enthusiast. I'm a climber as well. I do a lot of hiking. So before grip sport, my two main sports I would say is climbing and hiking. 36. Um, I'm currently a financial trader. So like I just work for myself, mostly like trade shares and things. So it's pretty good. I'm my own boss, so I give myself lots of holidays. I'm pretty flexible with time, things like that. Um, and yeah, that's me.
I always had the curiosity of what's the origin of your Instagram name? Pinch by Pinch.
So yeah, I had my like normal Instagram profile, I guess, and I started following more grip people. And then it was like, well, I've got all this like climbing content on my normal Instagram and people that I know. I just want to be able to like switch to a different Instagram account, just have a look at grip stuff. So I had to come up with a name. And at the time, I had just ordered like the 24 kilo whole blob, and it was much harder than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, what's sort of like a name that embodies what I want to achieve with grip sport? And I was like, I just want to get better, like little by little. So I was thinking like inch by inch, pinch by pinch. So that's kind of how that came up. And the irony is, I'm pretty much never on my old Instagram account now. Like it's just I'm just always on my grip one, pinch by pinch. So um, yeah, it's funny that I set up a separate account just to have a look at grip sometimes, and now I'm like, oh, I haven't signed into my normal account in like a week. So
Excellent. It happens the same to me. I am always on Gripsport Latino, not on
yeah,
Pancha Grip anymore, like ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were telling me that you came from a climbing and hiking background. Do you still practice those sports?
Yeah, so climbing, like I started when it was probably the first sport that I was actually really good at and interested in. I did it when I was maybe like 12 years old. Um, Indoor climbing. It was very different back then. Um, even though wasn't that long ago, didn't really have the community. Didn't really have bouldering. Bouldering existed back then, at least in Australia. Indoors was more like you just do the lower part of the normal climbs. I don't think there was any such thing as like a boulder gym existed. It was all like lead or on ropes. So I was really interested in that as a kid, partly because like I did notice that I had strong hands as a kid. I don't know if you play this in Chile, but like the games where it's like two kids try to like bend their hands back, things like that, and squeeze hands really really hard. I was always really good at that, and like just I've got like larger than normal hands. I don't have giant hands. Like I met some people with truly giant hands. So I was always good at hand sports. I really like climbing trees. Um, so yeah, I sort of naturally gravitated towards climbing. I did that until I went to university. So like maybe 18 years old, and then I got really busy. Girlfriends and university and things like that. So I didn't really climb much between the age of like 18 and 28. I did a little bit of outdoor climbing when I lived for a year in Europe, but I didn't have my gear with me. So and I've got pretty big feet. I've got much bigger feet than I do hands. I've got like US size 14 feet. So it's actually quite hard for me to get climbing shoes, at least
Oh,
back then. This was like 15 years ago. Back then, it was really hard to get climbing shoes that would fit. So I'd just go barefoot. So that was kind of interesting. There's people seeing this Australian just barefoot climbing in France. I lived in France for 6 months. That's where I met my wife, and then I worked in Spain for a little bit, and then she's German, so I lived in Germany for a little while. So once I moved back to Australia, like I was working full time. I was doing a little bit of exercise. Like I've always like cycled around to keep fit, and I was kept a little bit fit, just doing sort of normal commercial gym stuff, not really seriously. And then sort of rediscovered climbing in my late 20s, and did that like on weekends and after work. Um, and then it wasn't really until joining a bouldering group and meeting some people, getting really into bouldering and doing more outdoor bouldering, and then coming to Tasmania. Moved to Tasmania in 2020. No one really does outdoor bouldering in Tasmania. It's got a real sport climbing and like traditional climbing culture. So I started doing much more of that. So yeah, climbing's definitely probably. I would have said it was my main sport until recently. I think grip's probably overtaken it, but I think it's like in cycles. I think it's good to it's like in climbing you have you talk about psych and you get psyched for a project and maybe a trip that you're on or like a project that you're working on, but you can really get burnt out with that. And I think grip's a bit the same. Like I think if you have a goal like lifting the inch or doing a certain blob, if you do it too much you can you can get tired of it, or like it's almost like work, it's almost like a burnout thing. So I think cycling it with other sports or activities is like a really beneficial thing. And the great thing about hiking and climbing is like extended periods of hiking, I'll lose weight, I'll like, develop good leg muscles. That's all good for grip and climbing. And climbing obviously works your forearm, so you're not losing things in the downtime. It's not like when I'm not doing grip, I'm just playing video games or something. So I think climbing, hiking, and grip are all really good sort of cyclical sports that you can do together. And I'm sure, people talk about they do MMA and things like that. I'm sure it's the same. It's like you probably get burnt out. So yeah, having multiple sort of hobbies and sports, I think it's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am fully into Gripsport myself, and I think I am doing like cycling like the goals, because a couple of years ago I was fully into closing bigger groupers. And then
Yeah.
since these years, I try to host more competitions and doing the King Kong and all that stuff. My focus is more on pinch, thick bar, vertical bar, and stuff. So I can keep the things like fresh. So yes, I agree with you. I have the first question from the audience, and it's from a fellow Australian athlete, from Miss
Uh-oh.
Tara Rodwell. How did you get into grip?
Um, so I was doing, there's a hike in the States called the Pacific Crest Trail. Have you heard of it?
I have never heard of it.
So it goes, you can do it in either direction, but it goes from Mexico to Canada. So it's the full length of the US going through California, Oregon, and Washington.
Whoa.
So I wrote it down before. What is it? It's 2,650 miles. So that's 4,265 kilometers. So it's a really, really long, long way. So my wife and I were doing this hike in 2022. So it takes about 6 months to do. You're hiking like every day, pretty much for 6 months. You have a couple of rest days, maybe like once every 10 days you have a rest day. So yeah, it's a very, very full-on experience. And so I was hiking this for months in the States. And after a while, like you start the hike and you think like, oh, I'm going to enjoy nature. I'm not going to listen to any music, but you're walking for like 12 hours a day sometimes. So you have, all the thoughts in your head. You don't have any, you don't have any new thoughts. Like you're thinking about the same things over and over. Like there's only so much you can appreciate nature. Like it gets to that stage. So I started listening to a lot of podcasts while walking, especially through, there's it's a continuous track, so it's not all as exciting as other bits. So I started listening to a lot of music, a lot of podcasts, and during this hike, so I'm usually about 80 kilos, or climbing was probably more like 75 kilos. But I put on some extra weight because I knew I would lose weight doing this hike. So I put on extra weight and I was about 80 kilos. And after a couple of months of hiking every day, 10-hour days, I got down to 67 kilos,
Ooh.
which, yeah, it's really light. Like I'm 190 centimeters, so I'm like 6'3". So 6'3" and that weight, yeah, kind of just, yeah, very lean, and I wasn't feeling strong. Like I could hike all day. I was super fit. I could wake up 5 a.m., hike up mountains, go down a mountain, hike up another mountain, go down another mountain. So I was extremely hike fit, but I would get to maybe like a motel or something after 6 days to do resupply to get food and everything. And I'd try to do like a push-up, and I could do like 5 push-ups. And I was like, this is crazy. Like I'm obviously losing a lot of strength by doing this like hardcore endurance sort of stuff. So I was kept thinking like, okay, when I finish this trail, when I get back to Australia, I've got to regain strength. got some climbing goals. I'm going to get back into climbing. What can I do to get back into climbing? So I was listening to a lot of climbing podcasts. There's a million of them. And I remember listening to, I think it was the Lattice podcast, and they were interviewing Yves Gravel.
Yes.
And I knew Yves from like seeing stuff on YouTube or whatnot. Like all I knew about Yves was that he was like extremely good at campus board. Do you know the campus board?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, and Yves was talking about how he does Gripsport. And I was like, well, whatever Yves does, I want to do because this guy's insane. And I remember he talked about King Kong. And I follow Ben Cossey on Instagram because he's, a great Australian climber. And I had met Ben in 2018 at like an outdoor bouldering festival. He was like doing a clinic. He didn't know me. I just knew him because he's, climbing famous. And I remember thinking, like, I'm pretty sure I saw something that Ben posted about King Kong. Like, just the name is memorable. Like when he posted it, I didn't think much of it. I thought, oh, that looks cool. That looks fun. So yeah, Yves mentioned King Kong, and I was like, King Kong. I'll have to look up what that is. So then hiking, and once I finished the hike, so we finished in like the Mexican border, and then we did a trip, like a climbing trip to Mexico afterwards. And I was just doing all this research. Had a lot of time. I wasn't working, and I was just looking. Okay, what do they do at King Kong? What implements do they use in King Kong? And saw all these, random implements that I'd never heard of in my life. And I was like, okay, I'm going to order these implements now when I'm in Mexico. So by the time I get back to Australia, they're all there. I can start like this crazy climbing strong thing. I'm going to gain all my weight back. I'm going to be, build back better. I've lost all this stuff. This is what I'm going to do. Like highly, highly motivated. And while I was in Mexico, I was like looking up all these people, I think I found Ben Cossey's, one of his old posts about King Kong. And, he had tagged a bunch of people, and, they're all Australian. I was like, oh, I'm going to follow all these people that he's tagged and look at all their content. And one of them was Joe. And I saw, looked at some of the leaderboards, and Joe was right at the top. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing that there's, Ben Cossey and Joe and Tom Denmead. They're all like at the top of their weight class in grip sport. Like Australians are at the top. Like it was like amazing to me that some sport that I never even heard of, it's like we're, some of us are the best in the world at it. And that was like really exciting for me. So I reached out to Joe, and I think I sent messages to a few other people. And straight away, Joe like replied with like a big long audio message, which he does sometimes. And it was great. It was just someone who's the best at some of these implements in the world, just replying with like all information, all knowledge, super approachable. And like I never really get homesick. Like I've traveled a lot. And I like traveling's one of my hobby or sort of lifestyle. And yeah, I never feel homesick, but like listening to Joe's message, and I don't know where he was, maybe he was on he goes to like a farm sometimes, but there's all these bird noises, like Australian birds, like magpies and things like in the background. I'm like, oh, I just want to go home. I just want to train. It just got me so I guess psyched, like excited for sort of the next post PCT. PCT is the Pacific Crest Trail, post PCT part of my life, because the PCT had been such a long build up. We were meant to do it in 2020, and I planned for it for like 5 years. I had like already we'd given up our lease and sort of put our jobs on hold and things to do this hike in 2020. And we were living in Melbourne at the time, and then Melbourne went into lockdown, and it was Melbourne's lockdown was like probably like the strictest in the world. I think it was, one of the top 3 cities that had like the strictest lockdown. So yeah, we had to fully postpone our plans. So it was really, I guess, this transitional period of my life where one massive lifetime project was over and like a new one was beginning. So yeah, Grip sort of came right in that period of time where I was willing to absorb a lot of new information and try a lot of new things. So yeah, I'm very thankful for Joe and Eve as well for doing the podcast, and Ben as well for sharing all that information. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found out about it.
And when was your first competition, Isaac?
I think the first competition I did was like an online one. Joe was doing two-hand grab ball. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that one.
So I had ordered the grab ball because when I was in Mexico, I I knew that fat bastard barbell company provided the gear, and I thought I'll get the stuff from last year's King Kong. So I get the stuff from 2022, and the grab ball was in that, just to see how I would compare, because I had no idea if I was any good at grip. So I happened to have the grab ball anyway. So I was like, I might as well give it a go. So yeah, that was the first one I did, just that online competition. I didn't come last, so I was already happy. Like I didn't mind if I would come last anyway. I was just giving it a go, but I was like, all right, that's cool. And yeah, I remember like dropping the weight plate on the scales and yeah, not knowing what I was doing, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that was the first, sort of unofficial competition I did, and then the first sort of in-person competition I did was last year. I think it was in August. The Canberra competition. That's what we call it here, the Canberra comp. But it was the first GSI competition in Australia, I'm pretty sure. So Ultra Fitness, Mark in Canberra organised it, and so we hadn't really heard of Mark or Ultra in grip, and we were like, this guy's gone out on a limb and organised this grip competition, and he doesn't really like it. I think he dabbled in grip, so we kind of really wanted to support him, and we all went to Canberra. And I came second after Joe, so that really, made me motivated to continue. That I, first competition and I came second. So yeah, that was my first in-person comp.
And actually, on that competition, correct me if I'm wrong, but you made many world records, right? On the Naples
Yeah,
Cyber.
for my weight class. So I did like a 200 kilo napalm 2-inch, which was the record at the time. I think Ben Galper's since beat that one with like a massive lift. But yeah. So coming away with like a top thing in my weight class, yeah, was also definitely motivating. And just I hit all PBs as well. It's kind of a joke I have with the other grip guys in Australia. So Tasmania, because it is colder and a different climate, my stuff like seasons a lot differently. It's a bit. I've heard Eric talk about it before. Eric says that his stuff isn't as as grippy as Jed's or people in the States. So anytime I go to the mainland and do a competition, I always pull better numbers because their equipment's much better. So yeah, it's nice to go to a comp and almost know that you're going to get the best thing that you've done in training at home. So
Perfect, Isaac. And since you have been doing these competitions, having the like a high motivation, what made you decide to be the host of your first competition, the first national grip competition of Australia?
So I think there's two things. One, and I re-listened to it the other day to see if I remembered it right. But the first episode of the Grip Show with Zach was Joe, and Zach was asking Joe about like if he's going to host like a national competition, because Joe hosts a lot of stuff at his home. He has a lot of, I think he called them Sydney record breaker events, and organizes things like that. And Joe was talking about how difficult it would be to host a nationals or something like that. And I thought, Joe gives so much to the grip community, not just the Australian grip community, but Joe shouldn't have to organize the nationals. He's probably going to win the nationals. He should be able to someone else should step up and do it. So firstly, I wanted to do it so that Joe wouldn't have to do it. And secondly, I thought, the Canberra comp was good, but I didn't want that to be seen really as our nationals, because one, I didn't want to go to Canberra every year. Canberra is, and it's a little bit difficult to get to. It's the capital city of Australia, but it's a bit like how Washington DC is the capital. It's like, it's not the most populous city, and it's also expensive. So it's expensive to get to because it's like where our government is. So there's always politicians flying in and out of Canberra, and all public service is based in there. So you get a lot of flights are just way more expensive to go to Canberra than other cities. And then it's also really quite spread out. So I don't love driving, or I don't want to have to rent a car if I go somewhere. So I wanted the competition to be not in Canberra. I'm hoping that they do Canberra Comp every year, and I'll go to it as much as I can. But I wanted people from all around Australia to be able to go somewhere relatively easy for a competition. So I thought, Sydney would be a good place to start, because there's a lot of really good Australian grip people there. So yeah, I think it was the motivation was put on an event so that Jay doesn't have to organize it. He can just be a competitor. And so that one place wasn't the place every year, not that we could spread it out, and we could pick our events and not be influenced by any particular gym. Not that Ultra wouldn't do a great job, but yeah, that was the motivation.
Excellent. And I know that the events were the 2 and 3/8 Napalm Sniper, 3x4 Napalm Sniper blocks, the Little Big Horn, and the double shallow inch pinch.
Yeah.
Why did you came up with that lineup, so to speak?
So the North American Championship, I knew was going to be on middle of the year, so it was on this weekend. And I thought it would be cool if we could have the same events as the North Americans, not to try to make it a multi-venue contest or anything, but so that we could directly compare how we are, how Australians compared to the States. So I had a look at what Eric sort of had put out for the implements, and his was run over 2 days. And I thought, we're not going to be able to do a 2-day comp. That's we're not really established enough for enough people to come for the weekend. I didn't want to have a medley because I hadn't organized a competition before, so that's also a lot of work. So I had a look at the list of things that he had. I thought, a lot of us don't. I think he had a silver bullet close. We don't have a lot of grippers, or we don't have that hosting experience for gripper competitions. And so it was I wanted to have a vertical lift. So he's having a Little Big Horn. Wanted to have some sort of open hand crush. So he was having the 2 3/8. Wanted to have a pinch. He was having that pinch. And then it was sort of down between, which one do we do? Do we do wrist wrench, or do we do double shallow inch pinch? Wrist wrench, I think, is closer to the open hand strength. So I think if you're good at the 2 3/8, you're probably good at the wrist wrench. Not necessarily, but I thought, grip, the weird things the finish ball and the anvil stud and things like that. So you should have an event like that. It almost sort of rewards the grip people, if that makes that, and the people who do the things like the hub and stuff, they do have a specific strength. So sure, you might be really strong if you're a power lifter or a strong man, but unless you practice something like the double shallow inch pinch or the hub or anvil stub, you're not going to be good at it. So I thought that's over the wrist wrench, that'll be more of a factor for a well-rounded grip competition.
Isaac, and which were the biggest challenges that you had to face being the host for the first time of a national level competition?
I mean, it's kind of ambitious to have a competition in Sydney, and I live in Hobart. So Hobart's like 1,000 miles from Sydney, so 1,600 kilometers from Sydney. So I had to try to find a venue without necessarily going to the venue. So I'd say the venue is probably the hardest thing. I reached out to, I don't know, 20 different places. I was just like contacting, gyms and, jiu-jitsu places, just anywhere I could think of that would have matting and maybe weights and things like that. And also reasonable price. So Sydney's like one of the most expensive cities in the world, like the real estate and the land. So it's like, it needs to be big enough, but not like, we don't have the money to rent like a really expensive space. I did contact some climbing gyms. I thought, it'd be good to get more climbers involved as well, but they weren't super responsive. And I also did want to rent it. So I figured if we paid money for it and we had a contract in place, it's less likely that they would cancel on us. So I think if someone's doing you a favor and then something else comes up and they're like, oh, actually we're hosting the state sport climbing championship that weekend, so sorry, we'll put, if you've got a contract, they can't just change their mind. So I found a place, Health Alliance. They had like a dance studio and a CrossFit gym underneath, and I talked to him a little bit, and I got him to, it was like a pretty good rate, and I said, can you be a sponsor? All that means is give us even more of a discount. We'll put you on shirts and advertising and things like that. So it was a good location, central Sydney, so people who aren't in Sydney could, fly in, get the train to central and walk there if they wanted, or like really cheap Uber. So yeah, in the end, there were some difficulties even on the day with the venue, but yeah, it worked out. It was a really big space. We had to bring our own weights and everything, but yeah, in the end it worked out.
Perfect. And tell me about the day of the competition. When did you have to arrive? Did you have to be like 2 hours in advance or bring the grip tools? How was it?
So competition was on Saturday. I arrived Thursday night because that was when cheap flights were. I also wanted to be around Friday just in case any last minute things came up with the venue, or I considered myself as sort of like project managing the competition. So it wasn't just, I was just heavily relying on the people in Sydney to bring implements and get things organized. So Pat, whose Instagram is Pedro New Camino, he was going to pick up some of the prizes. So everyone was pulling their weight in Sydney to make it happen. But things happened. Like Pat ended up being sick on the day. He was just going to drop the prizes off, but he was so sick, so his wife had to come in. So all these things that I knew would come up, just being there like a little bit early was going to be beneficial. And I hadn't even checked out. I hadn't been to the gym in person, so I went there on like as soon as I arrived on Thursday, found out that there was some scheduling conflict. In the end, it was all fine. But yeah, so I arrived Thursday. Joe wasn't able to make the competition. So Joe had a back injury. He sort of recovered quite well from it, but he also had family commitments on the day. So kind of ironic, if you say, what's your motivation for running it? Part of the motivation was so he didn't have to be the main organizer. In the end, he wasn't able to compete, but he did attend for a little while. He also helped out. He provided the crossbar, and Tom Denmead picked up the crossbar from Joe and brought his implements, which sort of are notoriously grippy, which is really good. So really, I was just there to help coordinate other people running the competition. Also hadn't met a guy named Thomas Claxton. He goes by the Nerdy Strongman on Instagram. I reached out to him months ago. He had helped organize. He had run a King Kong in New South Wales previously, so he wasn't going to compete, but he said he was, happy to help. So I kind of, bribed him with good Tasmanian whiskey and said I'd pay for his parking because he has calibrated weights. He's got a really nice set of weights. So the gym, because it was more like a CrossFit gym, they had just had like really thick plates, and so that's not going to work. We've got really strong guys. We're going to potentially be lifting 200 kilos. So it needs to fit in the stack. So Nerdy Thomas, he brought 200 kilos of weight. So yeah, it was really amazing. So, I definitely organized the event, but everyone did a lot of stuff to help. And even Artie wasn't able to compete. Artie's grip gym, you might definitely follow him on Instagram. Yeah, he flew from Melbourne just to help out and help things run. And my wife came as well, and she did all the data entry. So I think to run a successful competition, if you're going to compete, you need at least a plate loader and judge, which was Thomas Claxton. So he had judged like powerlifting events and things before. So he was really good at keeping time and getting people on and off the platform that we set up. And then someone without chalked up hands to enter all the data into the laptop. So yeah, my wife did that. So very appreciative that she came up with me. And then Artie was, an additional support. So when people had to take breaks and things or move blocks for different heights, he was there to support. So yeah, I think for like a big event like that, it's the minimum you need to have 2 or 3 non-competitors.
Super good to have a good team by your side. It sounds like you could rely on them and people with experience. Super good.
Yeah, definitely.
So for the first event, was it like the two-hand Naples Nightmare? Was it the first?
Yeah, that was the first event.
And tell me how it went. How was it? Did you expect it like someone is going to win? We know that Luke Blue Mountain Reynolds came out first on the whole event, but how did you see like did you have any predictions like, oh, I am going to do X weight or this is going to end up like that? How was it?
Yeah, so I'll just bring up my sheet from memory. So my prediction was Luke would do 200 kilos. So I was pretty much spot on with that. I thought he'd do between 190 and 205, probably 200, just given his great performance at the Arnold. I thought so. I'd previously done 165 in the Napalm worldwide contest that he does. I thought I'd be able to get 170, which would be the weight class record. I hurt my back like a couple of weeks ago, and I was getting better and I was feeling much stronger. I did 165 at home and it felt super easy. So I was like, I'll go for 170. We were doing 5 kilo increments, but each person could take one like in between increments. So that would have been 2.5. So I could have gone for 167.5, but I was like, no, I want to go for 170. So I got 165 successfully, and then I was like this far off 170, and then
Oh,
I come down, I'll try again, and then I was like this far off 170. So I think I definitely would have got 167.5, but you never know. I'm still glad I went for the 170. My biggest, so Will's super strong in my weight class, 83 kilo. We had competed together when Joe hosted King Kong last year, and we sort of have different strengths. So he beat me in the overall King Kong result, but just the way of the scoring worked, I beat him in the 83 kilo class. So Will is like my like weight class sort of he's like my main competition. It's like I think of him as like, all right, Will's doing this, I got to get stronger at this. So he motivates me to get better. So I was like, what's Will going to do? And Will got 160. I think Will could have definitely got 165. But day of competition, whatever. So I was happy to beat Will on that, because I thought that's probably the only one I'd beat him on. And the big unknown was a bloke named Henry Mullet. So Henry contacted me a while ago. He seemed very interested in the competition. I saw, looked him up on Instagram. He looked like a big dude, and he was. So when he came to the competition, super strong looking guy, massive hands. Like he looked like an arm wrestler, and he had done arm wrestling before, as it turns out. And he came all the way from like Gippsland area in Victoria. So Sydney's easy to get to from another capital city. We can fly direct, but I think I traveled probably the furthest. But Henry had to go from probably 3 hours to Melbourne, and then Melbourne to Sydney. So and he brought his family with him. So I thought, like, okay, he's highly motivated. He's going to do well. So once pretty much everyone else had dropped out, I'm just having a look at the sheet. So yeah, I dropped out. Big Mal, so Mal Bone, he dropped out at 165.3 as well. He came up from like lower part of New South Wales. And then Henry kept going. He got up to 185.
ooh.
I was like, whoa, okay. Henry's looking like he's gonna give Luke for a run for his money. But yeah, then Luke got 199.8. So we reweighed it to make sure, because it's a pretty good, it's a very good lift. So yeah, Luke got 199.8 and came first, and Henry came second in that event. A guy named Jeremiah, who's came from Gladstone in Queensland, so also a really long way to go. He hadn't done a grip comp before. You might have seen his name, because I think he certified on the number 3 gripper, Captain's a Crush. So he's a really, really strong at grippers. So we were all like, oh, how's he going to do in the rest of the thing? So yeah, he also did 165. So and you can tell he's younger. I think he's 24. He's definitely got a good sort of grip future, because he didn't have as much technique, but his raw power was there. So if he dials in his technique, his numbers are definitely gonna improve.
I wanted to say that the crowd that I could see at the pictures was like almost all tall and big dudes, because I
Yeah,
remember that Glenn the Hunter, when I interviewed Glenn, he told me that he was like 180 centimeters, and he looked like one of the shortest guys of the
yeah,
crowd. And I was like, damn, how tall are all of those guys? I would look like I don't know, a dwarf among them. I
yeah.
am. 180 as well. So it's like, man, how tall are they? And
We
Artie
had,
Artie looked
yeah,
like a short compared to the other guys. So it's like, oh,
yeah,
pure heavyweights territory.
yeah. Yeah, they're giants. Like I'm 6'3", I'm 190 centimeters. It's not normal for me to be like, hello, how are you doing? So I'll tell you some of the weights because I recorded, for GSI. So without saying who's who, heaviest person, 185 kilograms. Then we had three people weighing between 150 and 156 kilos. So, you know, and then another person, 147 kilos. So that's what, one, two, three, four people over 145 kilos, like big, big lads.
Yeah.
Very, very
And
big.
which was the total amount of participants of this contest?
So on the day lifters, we had 13. So it was the only part of the competition, part of the day that was not successful. So my criteria of success was just, we get it finished on time, everyone has a good time. My other goal was to get 5 women. So the previous competition that we had in Canberra had two women, and I really wanted to get 5 women. So the way I set up the tickets was no matter how many entries we had, I was always going to reserve these 5 spots for women. And I didn't want to, I think originally I thought 25 people total, but then I thought, I got a bit worried about time. Like I haven't run an event. What if it goes really late? The Canberra competition last year did go for really long, so I was worried about the time. It's like I'll cap it at 20 people, so we'll have 15 guys and 5 women. Sold all the 15 guy tickets, sold the 5 women's tickets. We had one woman pull out pretty early, just like financial commitments. She was going to be coming from Brisbane. And then Sarah Rodwell, who is, the queen of grip in Australia. She's great and she's super supportive. I believe she broke her finger, and I think she said it was training for the 3x4. So that's how committed she is to grip, that she'll break her finger training for this competition. So she had to pull out as well, and this was after I'd sort of closed off tickets. I had advertised that it was full. I put it back on for a little while, but it was coming close to the event, and I was like, at least we have the three women, so we'll podium, but threes, not as many not as many as I would like, but three's fine. So on the day, I was still expecting the 3 women. I was getting close to like weight cutoff time, and I'm like, what's happening? So the first woman who I thought was attending, she was a partner of one of the other competitors. He and I hadn't met him before, or her. They were coming up from Melbourne. She had bought a ticket thinking that she needed a ticket to be a spectator. So she had bought a full price ticket and signed up, thinking that it was a spectator ticket. So when she arrived, I was like, "Aren't you competing?" And she's like, "Oh no, just watching." I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, can you lift? Like, would you be able to lift?" And she was actually pregnant, so it's like, okay, she's not going to do it. So I was like starting to sweat and thinking, okay, I've only got 2 women now. That's all right. That's as many as Canberra had. Then the time comes in, and the other 2 women, just hadn't turned up. So I was contacting them. I was like, are you turning up? Because it had seemed like they were beforehand. One of the 2, it was the same thing. She had bought a ticket, which was advertised as finals women ticket, thinking that she needed a ticket just to come watch. So I was like, well, what's happening here? And yeah, the other one had to work early or something and didn't let me know until the afternoon. So we had no women's competitors. I was like, tried to drum up a little, because we had a lot of women watching, and but some of them would have done great, the very, very strong women partners of people who own gyms and things like that. They would have done fine, but I think they didn't want to, because they knew that if they competed they would win and they would get prizes and things. I think they didn't want to just do it. I think they thought they wouldn't earn it, and that's I'm not going to judge. I think that's a fair assessment. And I thought, oh, maybe my wife could do it, but this is not even dressed for the thing, because if I had known the day before, I think I would have been able to get some people to do it, but it was already, because we were expecting these people to attend. It wasn't until we were lifting off that we realized, and then it's like, well, people aren't wearing the right clothes, and they haven't even mentally prepared. So yeah, it was the only disappointment, because I had put a lot of effort into specifically reserving spaces for women, advertising it to women. I had targeted Instagram ads. So I paid for spots to advertise to women in Sydney and the surrounding 200 kilometers. And you can, I don't know if you've used Facebook, Instagram marketing, but you can target segments. So I targeted climbers and people interested in kettlebells and people interested in Pilates. And I got a lot of traction from that. And that's how I got some of the, women who I thought were attending to do it, was through this marketing. So yeah, I think I'm disappointed, just because it's like being in a competition. It's like you put effort into your training, you want to see that translate into a good lift. So I put effort into really trying to promote this competition to women and get women to do it. And it's just disappointing that that's not shown in the result. The result is we have 0 women competitors, which is not good. But lots of lessons learned for next year. So I'm going to make it super clear that you don't need to buy a ticket to be a to go and watch. And I think I'll also just factor in, I knew people would drop out. Things happen. It was just such a unfortunate event that the people who did drop out were the female competitors. So we had two men drop out as well, which is why we went from 15 to 13. So Pat, as I mentioned, was super sick on the day. I knew he would have come if he wasn't. And another competitor had a family issue, and he told me a couple of days before that he wouldn't be able to make it. So I'll definitely, I think next year, now that I know that we can run it in time, because I'm not sure if nerdy strongman Thomas will be able to make it to wherever we are next year, but I think lessons following his example of how to organize people and get through the lifts, I think we'll be able to run it in time. So I think we'll be able to have 25 people. So I'll reserve more spots for women. I'll also factor in that there's going to be dropouts to make sure that there's there, and I'll probably open up the period of time that women can get tickets earlier, so that I'll just open it for women only, and then open it for men once we've got some women. But yeah, it's kind of, I was talking to my wife about it, because I think it's embarrassing to not have any women turn up. It's not a good look for the sport. And I was talking to my wife about it, and we'll come up with almost extreme ways that we could get women into the sport. And one way I thought was any male competitor to enter, they have to bring a woman. A woman has to enter. It doesn't matter how she does. It doesn't matter if it's sister or friend or wife. It's if you want to enter this grip contest, you need to get a woman on board. So that's like the most extreme thing I could think of to get like even numbers. And yeah, my wife thought that was, it's like, yeah, that's what you do at nightclubs. If you want to get into a nightclub, if you want to get into a good nightclub, it's like you can't just walk in as a single bloke. You gotta. So yeah, I'm
It's
calling that
actually
the
it's actually
nightclub.
a smart idea. I think I'm going to take it for my next competition here in Chile. Like, guys, you have to bring a female athlete so we can have a
Yeah,
like the female like podiums full. You know, it's
yeah,
a
because
clever idea. I like it.
everyone only has to bring one. You know, like instead of me trying to get 10 women, I only have to get one, and each person has this motivation to get one woman, and because it gets, I was just finding strong women on Instagram and sending them messages. Sounds like my wife's like, you're just randomly sending messages to women. It's like, yeah, they can see that I'm promoting this event and saying you would do really well. There's people like, there's one woman who she's like like does calisthenics, but like I think they call it street lifting or something. It's a lot of pull-ups, and it's like she would have potentially given Sarah a run for her money. Like she was super strong. So I think if we can engage some of these people earlier and just really spell out how much of a good time they're going to have, because it's a very welcoming sport and everyone wants to see people do well. And it doesn't matter if you lift, 5 kilos or 200 kilos, you will get people cheering you. So yeah, we just need to work out how to translate how much of a good time they are going to have to the signups. But I'm committed for next year to not have zero women.
Did you reach? I knew about an Australian athlete. I think she's a strong woman. Maybe I am going to mispronounce her name, but League Holland Keane. She went for the Dini Stones a couple of years ago and went viral. Have you heard about her?
I'm not sure. Maybe not. You should send me your details.
I will send it afterwards, but she lifted the Dini Stones and she's super strong. So, well,
Yeah,
Australia is super giant. Maybe she lives like right in the other corner, but we
doesn't
can
matter.
see if he maybe she lives near to you. We can see, but yeah, the sport has to grow, and we together we can make it grow even bigger and cooler.
Yeah,
I
and
want
they would do
yes.
well. So they like I believe that if we got these Australian women, they would get in the top 10 lifts. Like we have a good climbing culture, we have a strength culture. Like they won't just do well, like they'll do really well. So I'm looking forward to to the competition where I can just say that we've hit all these records. That's my that's my hope.
I wanted to go over the second event, the two-hand 3x4 Naples Nightbird pinch. How was it like in general? Which were the top results?
Let's have a look. So Luke topped this one again. So I knew Luke would do well because he does a lot of the Saxon lifts. So I mean he came second overall behind Carl in the US arm lifting one, the Arnold. So it does transfer across the Saxon. So he got 126.7 kilos. So that was the top lift. But again, Henry was like right there with him. So Henry got 121.7. So I think Luke probably could have lifted a little bit more. Like he probably just wanted that one increment more than Henry to stay on the lead. Would be cool to see how much Luke Reynolds could pull on that. But Will did really well. So Will in the 83 class, he got 106.7. So I mean, anything over 100 kilos on that, I think is like an incredible result. And what do we have? We had 5 lifts over 100 kilos. So I got 96.5. So my previous competition best on that was 85. So I was super happy to get, 11.5 kilo PB.
And is it a weight class record as well, right?
Will's would definitely be a weight class. Well, I'm not sure. I know I mean, we'll have to find out after Eric posts all
Oh,
the
okay.
things from this weekend as well.
And what about the Little Big Horn? Since Luke Blue Mountains was there, I thought like, because I don't know how much he lifted, but it sounds like he may come near to a world record. How was it?
Well, before we go Little Bighorn, so I do want to mention, so Aaron Liu, he's a climber from Sydney. He weighs 58 kilos. So he's in the, 59 kilo category. So, he's competing against people literally 3 times his weight, more than 100 kilos his weight. So he's only 58 kilos. He lifted 71.5 on that pinch. I think that's I think that's an incredible thing to be pinching like well above your weight on that. So yeah, just wanted to shout out Aaron. It's not just the huge guys who had like a really good performance. I'm sure that will be a weight class record for Aaron's weight category.
I am
I
sure
think that
because in that category there's a guy from Chile. His name is Sergio Aguayo, and he was, I think, maybe he lifted less than that. Yeah, but big respect to him. Super strong.
yeah, super strong. And I think like it sounds like Canada, the Nemesis really promoting the sport to lighter climbers. So maybe the competition there this weekend will shake things up in that weight class as well. But yeah, I'm definitely proud that we have Aaron as our representative for the super light category. So Little Bighorn, I was excited for this event because Tom Deadmead has like a notoriously grippy Little Bighorn, so I'm always happy when I get to try that because I get much better than when I do it at home. So it was probably it was the most interesting one. So the top lift was 95.3, which I got. So I won one event. I was pretty happy. I did not expect to win any events going up against Luke, or after seeing how huge Henry was. And Tom's got 100 kilos on it before, so Tom's in the weight class below, but he's he does some massive lifts on Little Bighorn. So I think it was just a combination of luck. I mean, I'm good at vertical lifts, but I think because I am used to bad conditions, I'm used to lifting on sub perfect condition, Little Bighorn. So I think Tom got 80. So Tom only got 80% of what he's capable of. But for him, his implement would have felt slippery. For me, it was still better than my implement normally. So it also started raining quite heavily towards the end of the Little Bighorn. So I think Little Bighorn is impacted by weather and humidity and things like that. And Sydney, in the 24 hours between like 9 a.m. on comp day and 9 a.m. the day after, 142 millimeters of rain. So that's like, that's torrential rain. It was really, really bucketing down. So I definitely think that had it been good conditions, I think I would have got over 100 kilos on it. So yeah, I think we would have seen a few really good lifts. So yeah, I got 95 on it. Luke got 90.3. So he didn't get the 95. And Henry, I think Henry was starting to think like, okay, I've got some more events. He he did a lot of lifts because he hadn't done a grip sport competition before. He did a lot of lifts in 2 events prior, like a lot of increments, because he doesn't know how much he can lift. So he was lifting so every 5, and I think he thought, I'm obviously strong. I can beat these guys. I'll wait until I'll skip a few things. So he skipped a few weight increments and then joined in at 100 and didn't get it. So in the end, his highest lift was 85. So yeah, I think Henry could have pulled 95, but he didn't, or 90. I'm sure he could have got 90 or 95, but yeah, because he skipped those increments and then tried to do it at the slippery 100, he didn't do it. So yeah, that was a little big horn.
And about the double shallow inch pinch, I was checking if I could see the records, but I couldn't find it. So before the competitions, did you have like a reference on what's a good lift on the double inch pinch?
Not really. Like the only reference was like what we could see other people training with. So there are a few people in the States lifting on it. Will Reed, I think, had like high 40s in training. He's in the 83 kilo class as well. So we're thinking about he's got a good pinch. So it's like, okay, that's like probably a good lift in the high 40s. First time trying it was like, oof, like it gets hard. It definitely gets hard around 40. And I think maybe our expectations were set too low, because I think we thought people are going to be dropping out around 30, 35. And also the prediction was, I thought we could do really well in the first 3 events and then probably not do so well in the, people with big hands, like it benefits them for some things, but then you're trying to get your massive mitts on these little inch things. It's not necessarily the best, but yeah. Let's have a look. We started lifting, and the first, we Aaron in the sort of featherweight class, he was in until 35 kilos. So I think at that stage we were like, oh, okay, people are gonna be lifting big. So quite a few people came out at 40. So they successfully lifted 40.3, and then they failed on the next one, which was 42.8. I came out at 42.8. So there was a couple of us that dropped out there. And then Will got 47.8.
Whoa.
And then we still had a few guys who, grip's not their main thing. So we had Matt Whaling. So Matt's a really strong guy out of Canberra. He was at the Canberra comp, and he did the grip comp, and then they had like a deadlift comp after, and he was lifting, hundreds of kilos in his deadlift. So he's just like extremely good strength athlete, but we didn't think he would do that well, and he got 50.3. So we're blown away. And Henry and Luke were still on it, and they also got 50.3. So all our expectations about the dudes who would do well in the other implements not doing so well in the double shallow inch pinch, we were like completely wrong. They also dominated in the double shallow inch pinch. So hats off to Luke for only losing one event and tying the little grip one. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest surprise of the day, other than people all dropping out at the end of the little bighorn.
I wanted to know if we're ready. Like, do you have any Australian grip database, like to know if there were many or any national records broken in this event?
Yeah, so we use pretty much we just use the same as the GSI records, and we just filter by we just filter to Australia. So, and then what I do is I maintain the Grip Australia website. So it's just gripaustralia.com. And I just, I have a list there of like, I don't list all the Australian records, but I list the Australian international records, I guess. So if you're in the top 3 internationally and you're Australian, you'll be on that list. So I think that's a good way to do it, because I want our benchmark in Australia to be international standard. So if you're saying like, you know, I'm the 3rd best Australian at this, it's like, nah, it's not good enough. If you want to be on the list, you got to be 3rd in the world. So like that's the standard that I think we should set ourselves. So we definitely got Australian record for double shallow inch pinch, because no one's contested it before. But it'd be interesting to see, yeah, what they get in North America this weekend. And I think maybe maybe our expectations were set too low, so maybe we didn't do so well. But that's kind of the exciting thing about a new tool, as well as figuring out how much further we have to go with that implement.
I hope that they include this implement in the GSI database, because
yeah, they definitely will. Yeah, I asked Eric because I wanted that to be. I don't want to have any implements that weren't included, because I do think that's a really good motivator to see your place like in the international rankings. So yeah, I wouldn't have had it as an event unless it was in there.
Yes, because we were discussing today in the Gripsport Latino chat, if someone, I mean, I personally think this is not necessarily true, but if someone can do on the inch pinch 25 kilograms, maybe he's able to do 50 two-handed and get to the like 60 eventually, like because I shared a video of W Grip, Jaylan Worley. He lifted like 60 something kilos. It was like, wow, massive, but I always say that you have to touch the implement and try it before jumping into conclusions, because you never know until you try with grip. Grip can be really mysterious and give surprises,
Yeah.
So
I think Joe would have done really well in that. Like, we're sort of talking afterwards. Had Joe attended, where would he place? Because he is such a good competitor, and I think he probably wouldn't have beat Luke in some of the the rolling handle, really big numbers that Luke specializes in, sort of doing arm lifting. But the way that the score calculates, if he got like some massive double shallow inch pinch, he could have taken the lead. So I think Joe would be up there, because he's able to find really good technique, like where his mind works in regards to, he was giving people tips on the day. He was able to come in the afternoon and watch the end of the comp, and he was giving Luke tips about how to do it during it, and everyone else who was curious. So yeah, and Joe made his own sort of like a replica one, like wood and metal, and he gave that to Will, and Will publicly acknowledges that had he not had Joe showing him some technique lifts and providing that tool for him to practice on, he wouldn't have done as well as he did. So yeah.
And to end up like with the competition review rundown, which was your favorite thing about the whole event? Like, if you had to pick one thing that fulfilled your heart the most, what would you choose?
I think it was really good that a lot of people had their like family and friends supporting them. So I was worried about venue space and things, and I wasn't really, I was very happy for people to bring family and kids and stuff. but I wasn't really promoting that aspect of like make sure you bring your partner and kids and things. But yeah, having that sort of non-competing spectators, getting behind people. They hadn't been to competitions before. They didn't know really what was good or not. But yeah, I think seeing all these non-grip people getting excited, that was probably the best part for me. Is just and everyone coming up at the end and saying how much they enjoyed it. Because why do something if you if you're not going to enjoy it. So yeah, I think that was the best part for me, that that criteria of people are going to have a good time, that was met. And I tried to incorporate, like we did like a big pizza order to have like a little
Nice.
break between events 3 and 4, and it's like, this isn't just for the competitors. This is like, if you are coming and you're supporting, you're part of the grip community. It doesn't matter if you lift. It's like, you're here, you deserve pizza.
Perfect. Isaac, which are your personal grip goals for this year, 2024?
If you had have asked me on Friday, I would have said the 83 kilo Hodgson Cruitley bell, and I would have said the Fat Man. But I lifted both of them on Sunday, so I lifted them both yesterday at Joe's place. I was surprised. I thought after running the event and competing on Saturday, I just wanted to go to Joe's place because he's got such a cool collection of blobs and bells. Just before I headed off, but yeah, I managed to get the 83 HK bell, which is sort of like the Australian test piece for bells. So I was the sixth person to lift it, and yeah, also the Fat Man. So I got a Fat Man that I got from the States, and I haven't lifted mine. It's not as grippy, but I had lifted the 50-pound KWN blob that I recently got. So I knew I could lift the weight. It just depended on like the surface texture. So yeah, I don't know if it was just that post rain sort of light humidity in the air, or maybe I was just still so caffeinated from the day before, and it was like, at the end of the session with Joe, I was like, almost falling asleep on his like bouldering mat. So I was so exhausted. But yeah, I kind of, I think I've achieved my grip goals for this year. So in about a month, I'm going to be doing a trip to the US. So when we did the Pacific Crest Trail in 2022, we had to skip. So we ended up doing over 2,000 miles. So we did the majority of the trail, like 3,500 kilometers of walking. But Oregon at the time was, half of it was on fire and half of it was covered by smoke. So we had to, if we had have hiked it, we would have had to like skip heaps of different parts just to make it work. And that sort of breaks up your flow, and logistically it's a nightmare and extremely expensive. So in 2022, we thought we'll skip the Oregon section, which is the shortest and easiest section, because if we have a whole state to walk, we'll come back. If we have this little, couple 100-kilometer section in the middle of nowhere, we'll never come back and finish it. So next month we're going to go to the States and we're going to hike the Oregon section, and so that we've finished all the sections of the Pacific Crest Trail. So my goals for this year are now is finish the Pacific Crest Trail, and next year I think I've still got my 24 kilo whole blob, which is the first blob I ever got, and I haven't lifted that successfully. So I think that'll be definitely my goal for next year, and probably to put on a good 2025 Gripsport Championship.
Are you competing on King Kong this year?
I don't think we'll be back. So we'll go to the States for about a
Oh,
month. It'll take about a month to hike it, and then my wife's from Germany, so we're going to go from the States to Germany and spend some time there. So I'm hoping, maybe do like a sneaky side trip to I've got some friends who live in Helsinki in Finland, so maybe I can organize with some of the Finnish lifters to have a go with them, because they've got obviously got some of the strongest in the world, but also for them to have such a good strong grip community in half the population we do, and in Australia, and tiny compared to the US. I want to find out what's in their water or what's their secret sauce. I'm sure it's just similar to Australia. We've got people like Joe, and he's mentioned before that he's talked to Harry, and the willingness to not have any secrets, or not have any not saying that people who come up with ideas and things aren't entitled to compensation, but it doesn't all have to be paid training, things like that. If you're open to sharing your knowledge, like I think that's how you grow a sport. So I think Finland has that sort of huge openness to sharing information, and I'd love to meet some of those guys, and bring some of that back to Australia as well. Find out how they train.
Man, I hope that you can make that trip and do that crossover, because it would be super epic. Record that lift, and that contest,
Yeah,
whatever you do, whatever feats that you
yeah,
can do with the Finnish people, man, that's going to be epic.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I also wanted to give you congratulations on lifting the HK 86 kilogram dumbbell. I saw the video, and it was like, man, 86. Even lifting
80,
the inch
83.
is
I was
83.
gonna, like, yeah, 83. 86 would be
Oh,
good too. Yeah, 80,
oh, okay.
83 is still
A-
tough.
83. Because in example here, or at least for me here in Chile, I don't imagine how hard it is to lift a true inch dumbbell. So to lift an 83, it's like harder plus like over harder, So
Yeah, yeah.
congrats on that. And I missed the video for your Fatman lift. What happened over there? Was like the hype of the moment. It was like
Well, I
those
didn't expect.
those things that you have to record.
Yeah, I just wasn't filming. It's like, I think with blobs sometimes it's like you just don't know how you're gonna do, but it's like I put my hand on it, and sometimes it feels good, and I know as soon as I touch it, but you don't want to release your grip and then set up a camera and film. And I was like, I'm not doing it for the filming. I'm doing it just to to do the feat. And at least Joe was there to witness. So I wasn't. Glenn Hunter was also with us yesterday, checking out Joe's Joe's grip collection, and he had like walked off to do something else, so he missed it. But at least I had one witness. It wasn't just both of them walk off and be like, "Hey guys, guess what I just did?" So yeah.
Super good. To finish with the with the part, because we're going to jump into the questions from the audience, but I was checking your Instagram, and I saw that you have many grip tools like from FBBC and the Crusher, the Jog, etc. Do you have any grippers in your collection?
Yeah. So I've never really trained grippers, but when I started doing grip, I thought, like, I've got to get some. Everyone's doing some, so I ordered the Trainer 1 and 2, Captains of Crush, and I could do the 2 like the first time I opened the package, but I think you're psyched when you do that, and you're excited to do it. It's not, I tried again later. I mean, I didn't have, I was probably cold, and I couldn't do it straight away. So like, I can definitely do it warmed up. I can do the 2. So then recently I got a couple more. I got I got a, what's it called? RB, Robert
Robert
Baraban, I
Baraban.
think. Yeah, I got a 115 because I thought, that's a good next step before the 2.5. and Artie just on the weekend he lent me a standard platinum 112, I think, rating. So Artie also rates grippers in Australia.
Oh,
Shout out to Artie for rating grippers for us. Um,
nice.
so yeah, I think so. I think that's something else I want to do for next year is somehow incorporate grippers into the comp, because I think the vocal grip comp people, we don't really do a lot of grippers. Like we don't. It's not like our main thing. But people like Henry Mullet, he's really good, and Jeremiah, he's really good at grippers. So I want their efforts to be sort of seen in a comp, and I think it'll push some more of us to uh, appreciate grippers a little bit more. So one of the questions I was going to ask you is what do you think is the best way to incorporate grippers into a comp? Because I know that they've just recently done like silver bullet style in the US, but you did like is it 30 mil close in your
20.
competition?
20.
20. So is that
Yes.
like the standard? Is that like a good,
Yes.
is 20?
I mean, 20 is like the most contested as far as I know. I mean, actually, the reason that I included grippers into the first competition that I hosted, it's because I think 70 or 80% of people that has reached me out here in Chile about grip sport, it's like, hey, you are good at grippers. I want to get better at grippers. It was everything about grippers and the credit card set. And I was like, but man, there's blobs, rolling handles, vertical bars, so much other fun stuff to do. But well, okay, I like grippers as well. So since everyone was like their first love was the grippers, I figured out like a way to have them in a competition. And I watched like the I think was last year's national Jet Johnson's at the gym, and they were doing that like the block set, and I had the block set from David Horn, and I thought like, well, even if I had an athlete who is like 66 or 59, assuming that they could have like small hands, they can go for the 20 millimeter block set, even in some cases women, they have smaller hands, so they can go for that set. So that was my way for to approach it. I also have a silver bullet here in my gym, but honestly, I've used like once or twice in 2018 when I bought my first grip stuff, and then I never use it again. So it's like I was almost about to sell it to
Yeah.
any friend that wanted it or some guy in South America, because Iron Mind is pretty famous here in South America and in the world in general. So they see the grippers with the credit card and the silver bullet, and they want to do it. And actually, we in the group community we are doing more Naples Nightmare, Crusher, Finish Ball, and other things. So I was about like to get rid of it, but since I saw it being contested, maybe it's a sign, and in the upcoming years it's going to become a thing. And well, it depends on us to make it become a thing and become famous, because I see that the Australian community have a huge impact. I am always watching you guys, so it's like, oh, they are using like the inch dumbbells. That makes us want to have an inch dumbbells or the finish balls or the crushers or all that stuff. So I think that's a good way to include the grippers on the contest. The only downside is that I know that in GSI they ask you to have all their grippers calibrated, and that's like that can be like expensive, so to speak. But
Yeah.
since you are traveling to the US, I am going to quote my interview with Matt Cannon. He told me, and he did this for me, for us in Chile. If you have any collection of grippers which is not rated, you send it to me. I mean, you just pay for the shipping. Send it to me, and I send it to you back, and I can rate them for you, so you can have a competition. Luckily, I have the whole competition, like almost all of my grippers rated, but yeah, it's good to have the grippers like included in some form, I think.
Yeah, and I think I'll reach out to Henry and Jeremiah and Sarah as well. Get their input. Like, there's no point someone who isn't super into grippers telling people who are into grippers what's a good contest. So I'll get feedback from everyone before working out what the next events are.
Yes,
Yeah.
and actually, as an anecdote, I was watching the rankings on GSI today, and until today the grippers were not part of the ranking. So I was like, damn, I did all the preparation and all the hype for the grippers, and they are not on the GSI ranking. But today I was checking it, and we are, and some of the guys of Chile are like on the top of the list. One of
Yeah.
our athletes, who's a 66 kilogram athlete, he's like number 4 international
Nice.
on the block set. So it was like a huge motivation to keep on doing some gripper on the contest.
Yeah.
So I want to jump into the questions from the audience, starting
Sure.
from another Australian champion, Tom Denmay.
Before you jump into the questions, Pancho, I do
Sure.
want to thank you as well for providing the Gripsport Latino balls for the contest, and
Oh man,
thank all our sponsors as well, because you know the tickets. I wanted the tickets to be as low cost as possible, so I didn't want to buy. I didn't want to use competition entry fees to pay for the prizes. So all the prizes were sponsors. So you sponsored us. Climbing Anchors sponsored us $500 worth of 500 Australian dollars worth of gear. Nemesis, they were going to send some things, but I think there was some like just delays in that. So they gave us some gift vouchers to hand out. And Arm Assassin Strength Shop, which we all love in Australia, they also gave gift vouchers. So yeah, just before sort of finishing on the comp, definitely wanted to thank the sponsors. And because I won the pound for pound award, I still have a trophy that I can show. So I
nice! Congratulations.
narrowly beat Will. Will did better overall. So Will came third in overall. So it was Luke, Henry, and then Will. So massive congratulations to all three of them. But Will coming third and being in the 83 class is pretty cool, I think. But yeah, he's slightly heavier than me. I think if he
Oh.
had skipped breakfast, he would have won. So that's how close it was. It was really down to just that calculation, the body weight calculation. And Tom Denmead in the 74 kilo class was really close as well. So I didn't expect to be awarding myself a trophy, but on the day, being that tiny little bit lighter, got to keep one of the trophies. So
Excellent. Congratulations on that. And actually I had in my mind, like, I thought you were like from the 93 kilo class. And I thought like, oh, I am going to interview an international rival because I am on the 93.
maybe in the future, but probably like after hiking the Oregon section, I'll probably end up losing 10 kilos again. So I probably won't be in the 93 kilo class for quite a while. But I mean, as I think with strength stuff, you just end up building muscle in places you don't expect. So yeah, maybe in the future I'll be in the 93 kilo giving a. But oh man, there's some really high class lifters in the 93 kilo class. I'd be
Yeah.
scared to enter that without. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I am, and it's where I had to give the fight. But well, I have to face Eric Rusin, Zach Mullins, Ben Helms, and
Yeah,
all the beasts from the
yeah,
US.
yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
funny.
we only have to get stronger, and that's it.
That's
Uh,
right.
maybe you will have to help me with this one from Tom because he want to ask you. Pademelon versus New Fence. Who wins? I don't know what's Pademelon, but maybe you will have to explain us what's that.
So Padmelon is a kind of, do you know what? Do you know a wallaby?
Yes.
Yeah, so Padmelon is kind of wallaby. We have them a lot in Tasmania, and yeah, it's kind of a joke because they don't really have them on the mainland, but they're like everywhere in Tasmania, and they get stuck in my. I don't know if you can see my yard, and
Yeah.
they come in and they end up getting stuck and eating all our food and things like that. And once I had one fully jump into the house and like was running around the house trying to get this patamelon out, and it went behind my couch. And it's like, it's just like it's like a wild animal. It's like, it smells beastie, and then it like runs into my bathroom and hides behind the bathtub. And so yeah, I've got some history with patamelons, and the shirt that I was wearing for the competition was like a Tasmanian looking person. We have a lot of mullets in Tasmania, so a mullet haircut Tasmanian looking person riding a patamelon into battle. So that was my like Team Tasmania. I was representing Team Tasmania in the competition. So that's probably where this where this question is coming from. So what was the question? Who would win between a patamelon and a
Versus the New Fence. I don't
new
know.
fan?
Maybe New Fence. Maybe a
Ah, the new
fence
fan.
on your
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. So yeah, so we fully put up a new fence. Patamelon still wins because human stupidity. We leave the gate open. So patamelons are pretty stupid. They're not the brightest animal, but humans are also pretty stupid. So my money's on the patamelon. It's been here longer than we have in Tasmania, and maybe it'll be here after we leave as well.
We have another one from Goddesses of Grip. They want to know if there's any international contest on your horizon.
I mean, it'd be really cool to go to any international competition just to like see how things are run, and I'd love to come visit you in Chile and see how you run things. I liked the events that they had at Heavy Hands last year. I saw that Heavy Hands isn't happening this year. I wouldn't have been able to attend anyway. We've only got brief time in the States, but like maybe in the future, if they run Heavy Hands again, that'd be cool. I'd love to go to Canada and meet Eric and even if it was just helping out at one of his comps. I don't know if I don't know if they can have a Australian competing at a Gripsport Canada event. Anyone international is welcome at our events. Like, you won't win the championship, but all your records will count, and sort of open invite to all international competitors. That will always make a spot for you in our competitions. Even if we're at capacity, we'll slot you in if it's a last minute thing. And for people who want to visit me in Tasmania, so Tasmania is a really beautiful state. A lot of people internationally don't know about it. They think Australia is like a big desert hot place, but we also have like amazing hiking in Tasmania. I encourage any listeners of yours, Pancho, who don't know about Tasmania, just Google image search Tasmania or Tasmania hiking, to get inspired. But yeah, international competitions. I mean, Bonehill in Finland, that'd be cool. I don't think that's going to line up for when I'm going to be in Europe. Yeah, any competition. I really like the look of the Swedish one that they had last year with the blob medley and the inch medley. Inch medley is, that'd be super cool. I think one day we'll be able put that on here. I mean, you go to Joe's house and he'll put on an inch medley, but his start from 78 and go up. So it's a bit of a hard ask
Yeah.
to an inch medley. But we have a lot of inches in Australia. It's just about transporting them and coordinating it. So yeah, the one in Sweden they had last year looked very cool. And maybe, who knows, we'll put on maybe we can get some sort of GSI proper international competition. What do you reckon? Would you host it, Pancho?
Of course. I mean, I wanted to first mention that if you ever come to Chile, I will set up a competition so you can enjoy it and have the full experience. Like, I want to take the challenge of doing things better, better than the previous time on every contest. So if you come, I am going to do a legendary contest for sure. And well, I have the dream that since there's like the North American group contest, I want to do the South American group contest in the near future. So I want to set up like big things and to have people traveling here. Spoilers, for my King Kong, I am inviting people from Argentina, Peru, and from the countries nearby. Maybe they will come from Peru, I think. But well, when you are organizing any contest, people can cancel on the last time. We will see. But I want to make things big, so yes, I am 100% on that. Um, we have a question from Joe Hodgson. Joe wants to know: was winning pound for pound as good as lifting the HK dumbbell?
I That's a hard one. So I think with the competition, winning pound for pound, you've only got one opportunity to do that on the day you win it or not. The HK, if I didn't lift it now, like if I didn't lift it on the weekend, I'd have it as a future goal. So I'm going to say winning pound for pound, just because I won't have the chance to win the 2024 one again. Whereas, I think I'm hoping. I mean, I know the HK is going to get lifted by more people. We've got some definitely people in Australia who could do it and could soon do it. So that's there in the future. But this is a limited time event. So I'm gonna choose the pound for pound, or as we called it this year, the proportional force recognition award. So we got ChatGPT to name it for us, because I mean, pound for pound is so American, right? We don't use pounds in Australia, but kilo for kilo sounded kind of stupid. So yeah, it's kind of a funny name, proportional force recognition. So
Proportional force recognition.
yeah,
PFR.
PFR,
PFR, the
yeah,
PFR award. I like it,
yeah,
man. I like it.
yeah, it's
To be
very, very
different than the
cool.
US, PFR.
Yeah,
Because I want to give awards of pound for pound on my next contest. So
no, proportional
maybe
force
we will go.
recognition.
Maybe
Yeah,
we can go with PFR or with something in Spanish. We will see, but it's a good. I like it.
yeah, yeah.
We have questions from Sarah Rodwell as well. Sarah wants to know, what does he enjoy the most about grip lifting?
I think it's when you get to something that's like the first time you go to like a really heavy bell or a really heavy blob, and it feels like it's not going to lift the ground, right? It feels like it's attached with magnets, or like it's bolted into the ground. But just thinking that like one day that you'll be able to do it, and then doing it, it's like such a massive like milestone. It's like you gotta to get from something feeling unliftable to lifting it. You really have to commit, or you have to believe in yourself. Like if you don't think that one day you'll be able to do it, you won't be able to do it. So it's that sort of forward planning, self-belief, or even just like the process, thinking like maybe I'll never lift this thing off the ground, but I'm going to try it. Like I think that's really, really cool. Like I think you have similar things with climbing. You see a line, you know, Kossi wasn't able to come to the contest this year, but he just did like an amazing project of his in Arapiles climbing, multi-year thing. People have been looking at this thing since, I don't know, the early 90s or something, seeing a line and thinking, can that be climbed? You know, I don't know how many years Ben spent on it, but this year he got it. He's the first person to ever do this climb, and it's like it's that same feeling of, even if, you know, I've got this project, maybe I won't be able to do it, I'm going to try it, and then just the, you know, satisfaction of completing that. That's my favorite thing. So yeah.
Perfect. The next question from Sarah. I don't understand it so much, so help me out with this one. She wants to know, does he have a go-to for grip training?
So she might be referring to like, you know, a go-to implement, or like something that I definitely do, or maybe like a go-to source of information. I think my go-to is just whatever I'm like. I think I can look at the competition, whatever competition I want to compete, I look at the implements and I do that. But I really like rolling handles. Like before I lifted the inch, I didn't have an inch dumbbell. I tried, so Glenn Cruitley in Melbourne, he was the first person I met in person, of like, you know, the grip people. So, you know, thanks to Glenn Cruitley for, you know, I went to his house. It's you know, it's a big step. Some random on the internet says like, oh cool, like I heard you got some inch dumbbells, like to be open to be like, come around to my house and test it out.
Right.
Like, I think that's, you know, so yeah, shout out to Glenn. So I went to his place and he had an inch dumbbell and I tried to lift it. I couldn't lift it, but I mean, I was on a climbing trip at the time, so I was like fatigued. It didn't feel impossible. Like it didn't go off the ground, but it had this sense of like, this isn't impossible. So that was April last year that I went to Glenn's house. And then when the Canberra competition came in August, and then Joe brought his inch, and I lifted it at that competition. So I'd only been doing grip since the start of the year. So let's say 8 months. And in that time, the thing that I mainly trained was vertical lifts, rolling handles, and I improved that much in that time that I could lift the inch dumbbell. So I think some people think, I need an inch, I need a smaller inch, I need an inch trainer, I need it to be exactly this. I didn't even have any, I had the 2.25 crusher because that was going to be in King Kong. So I didn't have a 2.375. I was training on the Napalm Nightmare 2-inch because that was going to be in the competition. And these things were enough to get me to that level. I think the Napalm, the 2-inch, because I can lift nearly 200 kilos on it, I think, I haven't seen people really talk about this aspect much, but I think if you're doing really heavy lifts, doesn't matter if it's like really heavy two-hand lifts, it just gets your mind used to the fact that your hands, you know, they're lifting something that's really, really heavy. And then you go to the 78 thing and you think, you know, my body is capable of lifting this. My body is, because the inch feels like it's going to, at least for someone who weighs about the same weight as the inch, it feels like it's going to implode your body. You're going to lift it up and you're going to, you know, it's like a exploding star or something. That's sort of almost the feel that you get. So lifting something heavy, which isn't, you know, no straps, nothing like that. It's just, you know, you can really feel the connection between your grip and the weight. So anything over maybe 150 kilos, I would recommend doing something heavy to prepare your mind that you can lift this weight. And then, yeah, just like rolling handle of some sort. It will get you there. The other tip that I have for inch dumbbells, though, which I haven't seen, because I mean there's lots of information there. People know a lot more about grip than I do. However, I invite a lot of climbers over. I have a lot of climbing friends. People think climbers are really good, at grip sport. It's not necessarily true, and it's not just hand size dependent. So I invite a lot of climbers over, and it's like, sometimes I'm underwhelmed by their grip. They climb way better than me, so I'm not a good climber. Like, Ben Cossey, great climber. I'm just like a casual climber. I do it for being outdoors and do it for fun. I don't compete. I don't. It's just like a hobby. So yeah, I think when people hear climber, they think I'm like trained or something like that. It's like, no, I'm just like a hobby climber. But the thing that I see, the grip, the climbers that I invite who are good at grip, the thing that stands out the most is that they have good pull-up strength. So some people are good climbers, but they don't necessarily have good pull-up strength. But the climbers that I know who are good at grip sport, they can all do like really heavy weighted pull-ups or one arm pull-ups or something. So maybe it's that some climbers, have the ability to get like really strong lats. So I would say that if you're not a climber or you are a climber who isn't good at pull-ups, or any grip sport athlete who wants to get better at the inch dumbbell, start doing pull-ups or band assisted pull-ups. I know it's going to be harder for people who weigh 130 kilos or whatever, but there's definitely something lat involvement in grip sport. And because I can do, my goal was added 60 kilos pull-ups. So do pull up my own body weight plus 60 kilos, and I could do 50 something pretty easily, and I never really trained enough, or like I didn't pursue that goal enough. I think next year I'll try to get back to it, but Will in the 83 class, he can easily do way more weighted pull-ups than that, and he can lift dumbbells heavier than I can. And Ben Cossey, he can add heaps of weight and he can do heaps of pull-ups. So I guess wasn't part of the question, but tips for inch dumbbell: don't neglect heavy weighted pull-ups or developing your lats, because I do think that is more of a sign that you'll be good at grip sport than good climbing. Because climbing, people just some of them just have good technique or good footwork or great mobility or great reading, or there's a lot of climbing that isn't related to your grip. Most of it isn't related to your grip, or not the same that we do in grip sport. So, but yeah, I haven't met anyone that is a good that has poor pull-ups who's a climber that is good at grip sport yet. So
Perfect. That's super interesting because like maybe it's a coincidence, but most of the grips for athletes which are on the top and come from climbing, they are like shining, they are like incredible. But it's good to know that it's not necessarily true for all climbers, like just
yeah,
because they are climbing.
yeah,
Climbing.
just because they
So,
can, it's you got to do more than just be a good climber. Yeah.
so Sarah, the last question from Sarah is, which is your most proud moment in grip to date?
Um, lifting the inch dumbbell for the first time was pretty cool. I think it was surprised me more than anything. Maybe not the proudest, because I didn't have to work for it as much as I thought I would. I thought it would be like a big multi-year project. 200 kilo napalm lift. Oh, actually, no, the jug. So I did last year at King Kong. I lifted the most weight at that venue, so Joe's venue. So it came down to just me and Luke, and I think Luke lifted 110 or 115 kilos on the jug. And my previous best was at home was like 105 or something. So I was like, 105 will be good. 110 will be like I'll be super happy with 110. So I do all these, I do 90 because it's rising bar. I think I did 90, 95, 100, 105, and I'm still in it. Do 110, I'm still in it. I think it's down to just me and Luke. What do you want added? Let's go 150. I do like 112.5, probably 115, and I'm still holding on to this thing. I do 100. I think so. I think my end result was 118 or something. So I beat Luke. I got this massive lift, and yeah, it was just like something. Everything was just super. I've heard people talk about they're very calm when they lift, but I need like just to be highly like I'm pretty calm normally. I'm very sort of even tempered, calm sort of dude, but to do really well on grip, I need to be like real amped up, like highly caffeinated, heaps of sugar. I need everyone to be cheering. Like sometimes when people are a bit reserved, I'm like, I'll just cheer for myself. Same with climbing. I'll be like, come on, Isaac, you've got this. Like I'll cheer myself on. So I think just that atmosphere and that adrenaline, it pushes my performance more than 10% up. So yeah, I think after this like massive jug lift, maybe I'll say that's my proudest. I think I was definitely felt the most like, yeah, I guess achievement from that. But yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I've had a few good lifts and proud of them. So yeah,
man. But I was thinking, well, big respect on that jug lift, but to lift more on a grip tool, more than Luke, must feel like, man, this guy is taller and
yeah,
heavier and a strong man
yeah,
who
yeah. I'm
appears
going
in
to mention it
movies.
as much as
It's like
yeah.
bent,
Yeah.
super
Luke,
huge,
if
I
you're
think.
listening, if Luke's listening to this episode, I'm going to mention it to anyone I ever meet in grip. I'll be like, I'll find a way to casually mention it in conversation that I beat him in the jug and the little bighorn. So I'm going to get a shirt made that says, like, by the way, here are my results, but only because he's stronger than me. He's so much stronger than me and everything else. So I think he can handle a little bit of
Not
I
being
think
the
he can
best of
handle not winning
everything.
everything. Exactly. That's right. I mean, Joe, I was at Joe's best at everything as well. So like to beat Luke and Joe, yeah, it's not going to be a long list of times that happens. So I'm definitely going to make sure people remember those times when they do happen.
Excellent. Isaac, do you happen to have any questions for me or for the Gripsport Latino project?
I did have some questions. I mean, a lot of it. So I think, I'm interested in what you think about Gripsport International in terms of how international is it. So I think we have like, we've got Canada. Eric does heaps for the sport. We've got the US. There's lots of big names in the US, and Jed Johnson does a lot for the sport, among others. You and Chile, and we've got guys in Australia promoting it, and Finland's really big. But this is 5 or 6 countries. What do you think we can do to get it proper international? So we've got Asia's like half the world's population, right? Where are the Asian grip sports? Can you call it, can you call it grip sport international? Yeah. Or can we call it grip sport North America and friends or something like that? Like, how do we get it proper international? What do you reckon?
I think that, well, one of my missions in Gripsport Latino is to touch knock the doors of the countries like in South America, and I try to touch the door of every country out there to know what's really happening out there. Like, are they even interested in doing these competitions? Have they tried to reach GSI before? Or has GSI reached out to them before because well, it's like I am pretty like recent doing these like marketing actions or spreading the word, and well, in the case of South America, I try to. I have a friend from Mexico, who is the first captains of Crush number 3, and I
Mhm.
am like pushing super strongly to have him being a promoter to host competitions and have equipment, and he's doing it. So at least from that country, there's going to be more activity. Is and yeah, in example, uh, we have a giant country here in South America, but the language barrier it's like kind of hard to deal with because Brazil they
Mhm.
have like triple or 4 times the population of Chile, and in sports they are like 20 years ahead of us. I must say that they are fitter and they like it way more, but no one has gone there like to show them the sport and to like the thing that we do here in Chile to go to the public square and make people try the things. That's what needs to be done and to and check if they really like it. So since GSI like only allows certain brands and certain equipment, they are like making it's like a limiting factor, you know. I have a jog and all the required equipment because I am already crazy about it, and I had the chance to go to the US and test the sport and know about the community. But for someone who has never heard of it and know that's a thing, uh, it's really hard to develop the sport if we have like so much limitations, you know. So there are many doors that we must touch, like I don't know, in example, India, there's potential over there. Japan, there's a lot of potential over there, but I have tried to reach people from Japan, but some of them don't know English, so it's I mean today it's like North America and friends who speak English. If I weren't fluent in English and I were like as obsessive as I am with Gripsport, maybe I am not sure if there will be like so much contests or people on Argentina, Peru, or etc. like doing grip and touching the implements. I must recognize the work of Bruno here in Chile because he has hosted the King Kong. He has been doing it for 2 years. He has done many challenges from arm lifting and grip sport international. So the activity has been made like before I started my project, but yes, it's not like something that anyone can do or try, at least in the South American countries. So yes, so far it's like North America and France. But yes, we have a lot of work to do, and I want to have like the communities like having a relationship with each other, like part of me trying to sponsor the contest is to like build a bridge and help each other to grow and share each other's content because you are pushing it, I am pushing it here in Chile, so we must like support each other and know that the other in the other side of the sea they are doing like big things to make this sport grow. They are doing it in Finland, in England, in Lithuania, in Russia, Ukraine. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do, and maybe you have asked this yourself as well, but what happens with Africa? They must
Mhm.
be many strong guys, like potential for the sport,
Yeah.
and it's not like so hard to make replicas because well, recently I have been doing a replica of everything here in Chile so people can have the little big horn trainer, the jack trainer, the Gripsport Latino ball. So man, this sport must grow, and must like we have to give the countries which are not the US a bigger visibility, you know,
Yeah.
because I think most of the database and most of the athletes are in the US these days, but man, there's so much to do in the rest of the world. So
Mm.
well, we must keep pushing it. It's like that's like my message to develop this sport, like to make it friendly to everyone to do it, and pushing like the lightweight categories, because maybe it happened to some people that if they see guys like Schwarzenegger like pulling the big numbers, it's like, ah, this is not for me. This is not for the average Joe. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, in Australia, we're like close proximity to, um, these like island nations like like Tonga and Samoa and Solomon Islands and places between Australia and Hawaii, and they are like big, strong dudes. Like you know, the build is like they look like naturally built grip athletes, and they also I think culturally, if you are used to using your hands, so spear fishing and harvesting and things like this that traditional you know Polynesian culture and like even New Zealand. I think it'd be great to just be able to go to one of these islands, which is very accessible from Australia. We have flights there, they're close neighbors, and just have a free contest there. I think it'd be pretty cool because they do so well at it. It's like I don't want to it'd be good to maybe have an Australasian or Oceania contest or something because I know there's going to be people out there who are better than us, will give us a run for our money. So it's almost not it'll feel like more of an achievement if you know that the best people or the best options are there competing with. But yeah, be sometimes like I've done climbing trips to I was in a climbing trip to Laos earlier in the year. It'd be cool to take some implements. I guess it's just it's heavy as well. Like you've only got so much luggage you can take. But yeah, I think there's lots of things we can do as well. But yeah, definitely untapped markets out there with super strong athletes.
Yes, and I think there are a lot of talent out there, like who can lift more than what we have done, like in the grips for records, because I remember I've been into grip like before all the Australian talents pop out. So it was amazing to me to see that there's like a group like of 10 athletes that are on the top on every class. It's like, oh, where were these guys before? And maybe
Yeah,
there's going to be a country, I don't know, maybe China or some South Africa, I don't know, where there are only beasts, or New
yeah,
Zealand, who knows, where
yeah,
I don't know, a team of 10 people can lift the inch dumbbell, or they can lift like the fat man like for a clean on the first time. Who knows?
yeah. Yeah, we'll be looking back at this in 5 years, regretting kicking ourselves. It'll just be all these other countries, and we won't even make the list. And it's like, what have we done, Pancho? We've left ourselves.
Well, that's the downside, because well, it happens to me here in Chile, because since I am kind of old into the sport, in the on the first gatherings I was like outlifting everyone on everything, and now they are catching up with me, especially on
Yeah.
pinch. It's like, oh, what have I done? They are going to be like kicking my ass
Yeah.
in the next like 5 months, so I must catch up and keep being on top, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
the idea is to discover the talents and to get beaten by the new people, so the bar can rise and we can be more competitive internationally, and they can. I hope that one day they can say, "Oh, those guys of Chile are doing well. They are strong. I want to go to
Mhm.
Chile to compete." You know,
Yeah.
in some years, I hope that happens.
So I think the other question I had for you, Pancho, is what would like a Gripsport international competition look like for you? So, if we had people from Canada, people from the US, people from Australia, people from Chile, people from Finland, people from the UK, if what how do you think we could make that happen and run it? Do you think it would be like limited to a certain amount of lifters in each weight class, or like, sometimes I think we just need to put it out there, have some sort of if once you can visualize what it looks like, eventually enough people will get the idea, and it'll brew, ferment within them, and then eventually it just happens. I feel like that's sometimes you need to put it out there. So for you, imagine it's 2030. It's the Gripsport international competition. What does that look like to you?
If I were like in that like the one of the project managers of that competition, it would be like a huge milestone, because I don't think they have been doing that like with countries which are not in Europe and in the US. So it would be a priority for me to have people from, let me give you an example. In the US, there must be like 100 competitive athletes. In Australia, there must be like 20, an example. In Lithuania, maybe they are 3. In Russia, 200. And in Chile, 5. I will expect at least 1 or 2 people representing every country that has grip athletes, independent of their level. That would be my approach, because well, I used to do powerlifting back in the day, and in Chile, in South America, we used to not be like so competitive, but they made sure that we had a presence, even if
Mm-hmm.
we were not going to be like on the podiums. When I went to the South American, we were on the podiums, but at the beginning, like the first years of representation, we just went there for the experience and to live the contest, because it's like an international sports experience. It's like they that can transform your heart forever, like one of the most beautiful experiences. And to meet people that shares the same passion with you, it's like, man, that makes the sport grow tremendously. So if it's 2030, I would firstly I would expect to have like a representation from the the greatest amount of countries possible. You know, if I were to think about the disciplines, I would stick to the basics. Because, I mean, things that everyone can have on their home country: rolling handle, vertical bar, pinch, and any mystery item like the two-hand inch pinch, or any coin lift, or the stub, or any finish ball, whatever is cool on that moment. But yes, I think it should be like something like sticking to the basics, because it doesn't matter if you are training with the Napalm's Nightmare, or with the Axle, or with the Saxon bar, or whatever, or with inch dumbbells. Uh, you can be ready for thick bar, for pinch, vertical bar, and for any mystery item. So I would love to have like representation for every country, and to make sure that we can. This is just dreaming, but we can like found like, if someone has trouble paying for the accommodation or for the ticket, we can like how can I say it? Like every country can help the other country, so this can happen. And
Yeah.
we as brands, we can have like sponsorships and all the stuff. We can figure it out to make something big, because it has never happened, and I think it could be super, super, super interesting. It's like a huge opportunity. And maybe this is too ambitious, but if we could do something like puts together arm lifting and grip sport, it could be like the best of both worlds. Maybe it's too much to ask, or maybe they are like politics in between, but yes, that's how I see it. Like, it would be great that, man, if we have like the rugby World Cup or the soccer World Cup, we should be able to have a World Cup on grip. So we must keep pushing it until it happens.
Yeah.
Like make it big, like in your local area, and then grab the world. That's what I think.
Cool. Sounds good.
So, Isaac, last words belong to you. Which final message would you like to share with the grip audience?
I think I'll just thank everyone for attending the competition that we spoke about today, and thank everyone in the grip community for being like open, supportive community. And I would encourage everyone to keep that going. So keep the free flow of information and encouragement, and anyone new to the sport, they're gonna ask a lot of questions, and just to keep that positive vibe of grip sport, and thank people like Eric for running it for so long in other countries, so that we can also use Eric's influence as an example of how to grow and maintain a sport, and to run a competition, and all the other things that he does to support GSI database and everything. So yeah, I think final words are just thank you, and let's keep the sport growing.
Excellent. Well, Isaac, I wanted to thank you for your time, because this was a great chat. It's been a while since I have done like such a long episode, so I hope that everyone is like watching the full episode, and stay tuned for the next one. And I hope, my friend, that we meet again in the future in person, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. Give me 1 second.